what we were doing. Thanks,
Hold on,
guys, for
give it a
catching
second.
that. So what was happening is I
Hold on,
had
give it a second.
Bluetooth headphones on downstairs, and our kids are watching a TV show, and so you were hearing the Bluetooth headphones all the way from downstairs. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
What an awkward live video. This may be deleted after we do it
Why?
live.
It doesn't have to be perfect. This is real life. Goodness gracious.
So we wanted to make this video to give an update on the last 2 weeks of, well, 2.5 weeks of our experience with our twins in the NICU. It's been honestly extremely stressful. And I do feel like we've gotten a little bit of resolution,
You
a
think
little bit of
so?
resolution in the past few days. And most of it, honestly, has centered around our daughter, Truly. Um, about 2.5 weeks ago, the babies seem to be doing really similar. In fact, 3 weeks ago, Truly was actually ahead of her brother in several respects. And then, kind of out of the blue, I feel like she just started doing worse. And he took off and started doing amazing and growing really fast. Um, how do we even tell this story? It's kind of a blur.
Yeah, it's not going to be very like probably cohesive or even like a perfect timeline. So here's what I think happened is, and it's complicated and it's difficult to explain, but basically when you have micro preemies, um, in the in they're born, right? Let me see, where do I start with this? They all need fortification to the mother's breast milk. And the reason for that is because they basically lost an entire trimester in the womb to grow. And Arthur can explain this a little bit better, but basically that last trimester they get a ton of phosphorus and calcium, and that phosphorus and calcium, um what does it do? Like harden their bones? Finishes growing their bones. Arthur can explain that part.
Yeah, they're calcifying their bones.
Yeah. So they lose that. And so whenever they're born, they have to be fortified so that they can get enough phosphorus and calcium. Your breast milk, no matter how incredible it is, does not have enough phosphorus and calcium to do that process. And if you don't fortify the babies, they will have issues in life with brittle bones and various problems. So when they're born, they trial them on something called HMF. HMF means human milk fortifier. It is basically for a formula. A lot of babies that early and earlier cannot handle HMF. It can actually lead to something called necrotizing enterocolitis, and it can make your baby sick. So our babies got sick on it within the first week, and I knew nothing about any of this. Honestly, while it was happening, I didn't understand even what they were talking about. I understand it a little more now. So they put them on a different fortifier called Prolact. This is really the gold standard, and really I wish all babies had it the whole time they're in the NICU, because it is an amazing product. It is made from human mother's milk, donated milk. Apparently it is extremely expensive. So your baby has to get sick before they'll give it to your baby. So anyway, our babies got sick on it, and thankfully they didn't get neck because that's very dangerous. But they did get sick, so they put them on the Prolact. Well, at 32 weeks, which was 4 weeks after they were born, they put them back on. Please stop doing that. I can't focus. They put them back on the HMF because it's so expensive that insurance will only pay for it for so long. And we could get into all that and how frustrating all of that is, but there's nothing I can do about that. And there's honestly nothing the NICU doctors can do about it to some degree. They really fought for us and for the babies to stay on that for as long as possible. But in the end, they had to go on the HMF. I feel like this is when Truly just changed. She started getting very sick. She did not tolerate the HMF. Royal just took off on it. He was doing fine. Um, and so that started that whole thing. She started spitting up her feeds. And we say spitting up, we don't just mean a little spit up. We mean like vomiting up her feeds. She started getting very lethargic. She started looking very sick. Thankfully, during all this, she did not get necrotizing enterocolitis. That is just like such a wonderful thing that didn't happen. They were looking for it. They were testing her for it. They were doing x-rays of her belly. I mean, all this stuff was happening because they were thinking that's what was happening, or they were thinking that could be what was happening. So finally they tested my breast milk, and this was actually a really amazing thing that we found out was that my breast milk is extremely calorie rich. Turns out it was the most calorie rich breast milk they've ever tested in our NICU.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like a really big deal. I guess the average woman's breast milk is 20 calories per ounce. Mine is
Per
average
milliliter.
per mil. No, it's per ounce. Milliliter? No, because 30 milliliters. Honey, it's not per milliliter, it's per ounce. Okay, anyway. All that to say is that it's per ounce. But all that to say is that mine averaged out at 29. And so it's just very calorie rich. So they tried truly on just my breast milk, but they honestly didn't give it a big go because the NICU they're just not okay with only giving babies breast milk, which makes sense because of what I just told you guys. And they quickly put her on a different formula thing that's not HMF. It's called Ellicare. She still wasn't doing great on that. We took dairy out of my diet. That has helped, but really getting her off the HMF has seemed to be the thing that's helping. They've also added some more supplements to her feeds. They gave her a blood transfusion. This was all over weeks of watching her get worse and watching her be more sick and, tweaking things. So it was just stressful. It was like we would get these calls, we would go in. It was just, I don't think I can convey to you 3 weeks or 2 weeks of intense stress.
Everyone's telling me I'm wrong about the ounce and milliliter.
A milliliter is like a drop of milk.
I know, you're right. So one of the other things, so what we're making this video to kind of catch up on how our twins have been doing in the NICU. And our daughter truly has really been struggling for the past 2 weeks. And so, as Bree just said, one of those issues was like a really nutritional issue, and her spitting up and not handling her feeds.
Oh, something I forgot to say is so she wasn't growing. She wasn't gaining weight. They weren't seeing her brain growing. They weren't seeing her organs growing. It's very stressful.
And then, but another big factor is anemia. And what we heard from them every day for, honestly, since she was born is she's anemic, but her labs are showing that her body is trying to compensate for that and make new red blood cells. And what happens when basically all babies are born is they're not making red blood cells at the rate that they need to. And what it turns out is that she actually started a lot lower. Her hematocrit started a lot lower than her brother Royal.
Tell people what hematocrit is so they know.
I don't even know. It's a measure of the number of red blood cells you have. And so she started off lower, and a typical pattern for infants is that they actually drop their hemoglobin and hematocrit levels over several weeks until their bodies can figure out that they need to start making more or catch up on making more red blood cells. So she actually, at the same time as she was having these nutritional issues and all these spit ups that were significant enough, she wasn't actually getting her feeds, and she seemed really uncomfortable, is she was getting more and more anemic and pale. And so there was this point That was about 2 weeks ago. No, it was about a week and a half ago, a week ago.
She only got the transfusion
When we
a week
looked
ago.
at her and we said, she looks terrible. And we started telling the providers, look at this picture. We took this picture a week ago. No, that's 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
from today. We said, look at this picture a week ago. She was happy. She was smiling. She was awake. And now, just a week later, she looks terrible. Her face is like
Gray.
sunken. She's pale.
She looked just like gaunt.
She's less alert. Her eyes are like bulging out because her face is kind of gaunt. And we said, like, what is happening? And it was about that time that I started thinking this has got to be related to the anemia. With her alertness, she was having lots of events on the heart monitor and stuff. And kind of at the same time, they actually came to the same conclusion, and they suggested that we give her or consider giving her a blood transfusion. Which, I mean, it's never something you want to think, oh, I want my baby to get a blood transfusion. But when you see them not thriving, like, what else are you going to do? So now, about a week ago, she got the blood transfusion. It was a whole ordeal. She had to have multiple IVs and hold her feedings for a whole day. And then, the next day, she actually looked a lot better.
She turned pink, yeah. Which is what happens when you give a tiny baby a blood transfusion. But that was encouraging because she had literally been like white or gray.
But she still wasn't gaining weight. Hey, we missed someone's super chat. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for the super chat. Sorry, we missed even mentioning it when it was up. So she had the blood. She was pinker. We were more encouraged, but her weight was still flat. And for the next several days, we were just honestly like on the edge of our chairs. And by that, I mean literally worrying 24/7.
And I think we need to give context because obviously if you or I's weight is the same every day, we're like, hooray. Or maybe that makes you upset. You want to lose weight or you want to gain weight. But explain that with the babies. Like they want to see growth every day. The NICU doctors is what I mean when I say they. They want to see growth every day.
Yeah, they want to see an average growth every day. So like every week they want to see a significant amount, right?
It's like 30 grams is what they want to see. Truly still has never gained that on average. But anyway, sorry, keep going.
Well, so what we were seeing and looking at there is that she actually, she started bigger than him.
By almost a pound.
And he had just by far surpassed her. And that's okay, though. One of them can surpass the other one and get ahead of the other. The problem is that she had fallen off the growth curve that babies really like need to track. And so she was gaining weight slowly, but she wasn't gaining it even close to the rate that she needed to. And so honestly, we were just terrified because we were like, she has to start gaining weight.
It's not just fat that they're wanting her to gain, y'all. It's organ growth, it's brain growth. It's not just about like, oh, they need to be fat. Because I was confused there for a little bit. Like, why are y'all so obsessed with weight gain? Because no one had explained to me that what they're actually looking for is organ growth. I mean, obviously fat as well, but organ growth, muscle growth, things like that. So once that was explained to me, I was then more terrified. Yeah. Honestly, I was then more terrified. And they were like, yeah, we are really concerned. This isn't just about them being fat. So I think what's made this especially difficult is all of a sudden Royal just turned into this baby. Like he does not even hardly, except for that he's just little and he has a feeding tube. He doesn't look like a premature baby. he just suddenly looks like kind of a newborn. And then when you put her beside him, she's looking better, but before she just looked terrible. And so having two babies, people say don't compare. Well, it's impossible to not compare when you have twins and when they've been born at the same time. And when before all this, honestly, truly had been the superstar in many ways. Her feeding had always been challenging, but so
But this went beyond comparing them,
oh yeah, of
which so
course.
there's comparing twins I think is a danger because one's always going to be doing better. But this went beyond comparing them because she was truly doing
Truly.
truly she was truly doing poorly and everyone was recognizing it. Not just us. We
Us.
weren't just worried parents. Everyone was looking at her and saying, "We're worried about her and how she's doing."
And something that was really scary for me was that so we have different nurses every day, and we had only just gotten what's called a primary nurse, which is a nurse that when she comes on the floor every shift, she has your babies. So we had just gotten this primary nurse who, you guys, is like a gift from God, this woman. But anyway, she's such a gift. But anyway, before that we were having different nurses every day. And it's so detrimental to the babies because I would talk to a nurse about something. She'd say, "Well, I don't know your baby, so I don't know if this is normal for your baby or not." And I'm like, "It's not normal for my baby." Like this, or like I would call and talk to the night nurse, and she would be like, "Oh, she desatted 20 times, just her normal." This was when all this started. And I was like, "That's not her normal. She has been doing great with her oxygen." And I think that was the night I was like, "Please go to the hospital right now." And you went for the night because I was just like, "What the heck is this woman talking about? This is not her normal." And then so I get this response all the time from nurses that haven't worked with their babies, and they're kind. These nurses aren't doing anything except they just don't know. So it's not like they're doing anything wrong, but it's I think a flaw in the system is giving these babies different nurses every day instead of automatically setting you up with a primary nurse from the beginning or a couple of primary nurses, because it's a huge difference in the level of care that the babies receive, to be honest.
Just the consistency.
In the consistency, it's not in the skill or in the care, it's in the consistency. um so, it's been rough.
So we're gonna say thanks to Deborah Collins now. We're like the fourth people to say thank you to her. So we
Oh, thanks, Deborah.
thank you, Deborah, for the super chat. That's super generous and very kind of you. So thank you. But everyone else in the chat was thanking her before us.
Well, that's what happens when someone's talking a lot like me. Okay.
So
where were we at?
We're at this moment where we're trying to figure out what to do for Truly to gain weight because honestly, like, we're terrified she's not gaining weight. They're worried about her, and she's spitting up constantly. At this point, she's on the HMF. They switch her to another one called Ellicare, which is another fortifier for breast milk, and that was the point at which we tested your breast milk
Yeah.
and said, "Wow, your breast milk has incredible calorie content." Now, just because it has the calorie content doesn't mean it has everything for preemies, but the hospital was honestly, they were working with us really well and trying to figure out something to help her gain weight. And they said, let's just try breast milk only for a few days.
What their initial thought was is maybe she's getting too rich of a meal. So, like, imagine eating steak and buttery mashed potatoes and bread with butter all over it, every meal. That would make you sick. And so they were saying maybe the problem is actually she's just getting too rich of food because there's my breast milk, and then they add this fortifier that has calories and stuff in it too. They didn't trial her on that for very long, just 2 days. So I actually don't feel like they gave that a good enough shot. But after 2 days, they're like, we're putting her back on a Fortifier. So it's fine. I don't have, I am advocating like crazy for my babies all the time. And actually, our NICU is amazing in that way. They really encourage it. They really, really encourage parents to speak up, because that was one of my biggest fears going into this is like, one, I won't even know what's happening with my babies, and honestly, a lot of times I don't. I have to learn very quickly or just let it go because I don't understand it. But I have been right about so many things at this point with the care of our babies and their condition and like my concerns that I'm starting to believe in myself. And what's really neat is that I feel like the doctors have actually believed in me the whole time and have really encouraged me the whole time to speak up, to share my concerns. I am in shock and awe at that. I've not had that experience with doctors very much. I've actually been demeaned so many times by doctors when it came to my kids, that this has been lovely. And the doctors, there's one doctor that's not quite as encouraging in that way, but the rest of them have said over and over, like, we heavily rely on parents' intuition. Why am I on this tangent? I don't remember where I was going with this. I'm so tired. Why was I talking about this? I had a point. I don't remember what it is. Anyways,
Your point is that they were listening to us.
yeah, they were listening to us. Oh, but they put her back. They put her back on a Fortifier. So we've been tweaking that. We've changed my diet, and it feels like a combination of tweaking my diet and changing her fortification and things like that have been really helpful. And we've had weight gain 3 days in a row now. She couldn't tell me this morning how much when I talked to her because she didn't have the paper in front of her.
So we put her on this new one, the Ellicare, and then we switched her to just breast milk. And honestly, on breast milk for 3 days, she didn't gain any weight.
She was still spitting a lot.
She was spitting a lot. We were just on the edge of our seat. We were questioning, is this still like the leftover effects from the fortifiers she had been on that aren't out of her system? Is this just um, an intrinsic issue with her that she's going to have no matter what? And so we were honestly terrified for those days. And then slowly over the past maybe 3 and 4 days, she started to gain some every night. She's had some big weight gains.
She had one, but I don't believe that one was real, because she had a huge poop the day before and they're like, oh, she lost weight again. And the next day they're like, oh, she gained all this weight. And I'm like, but then she's been gaining. It's not what they want to see her gaining, but she's gaining. She's gaining. And so we'll take it.
And the other thing that we're doing is Bree's going off dairy. And
which, hooray, I get to go through all this and not have cream in my coffee.
that's the biggest loss to you, isn't it?
Oh, you guys, I wasn't even drinking caffeine really before this because it affects my vision. But I cannot function right now without caffeine. And so I have discovered that at Starbucks there's this thing called a shaken oat milk espresso. It's non-dairy and it's not too sweet. And holy cow, don't drink 2 of them. Because I did the other day. I drank one and took Joyful somewhere and then and then on the way to the hospital, I was like, gosh, I can't keep my eyes open. So I got another one and drank it, forgetting I hadn't eaten. And then I got to the hospital and I was like, they're going to think I'm crazy because I'm like, rah! I was like so sketched out on caffeine. Whew, but that shaken oatmeal espresso, if you can't have dairy, go get you one of those, man. That thing is good.
I want to take a few seconds here and just recognize super chats. So thank you guys so much. It's just super generous of you all. And honestly, like, the generosity goes far beyond super chats to just people's really honestly overflow of support for us and their kindness. So Kelly Green, thank you so much. So very generous of you. And Joanne, I'm not going to say her last name, but it looks beautiful if you said it, I'm sure. But thank you so much for the super chat. And also, Carol, thank you so much for the super chat. So generous, and honestly, that's just this so sweet and so generous. The
Thank you. I can't read their name from here on my glasses on.
Okay, and JN, thank you so much for the super chat.
If you're wondering what I keep getting distracted by, is I'm pumping right now.
So, Brianna has been a champion through this with pumping, and it's because she believes, and science backs this up, that honestly having breast milk is critical to the infant's well-being. It's critical, and many of y'all probably know this, but breast milk isn't just nutrition. It's actually also protection, because breast milk offers the babies an actually active immune protection. It's like nothing else. There's nothing else that does this, because it actually, through antibodies, transfers the mother's immunity to babies. I feel like it's one of the under-recognized benefits of breast milk. It literally gives the babies a portion of the mother's immunity to anything that she's been exposed to. It's really, honestly, a miracle.
It's also so premature babies have high risk of getting something called necrotizing enterocolitis, and it's where portions of their intestines just die, and is extremely dangerous. And when that happens, babies often they have to go in and do surgery and cut out the dead parts of their intestines, and they can even die from it. It's just really terrible. And so honestly, any micropreemie that comes into our NICU is given donor milk if their mothers can't produce milk, or don't want to pump or whatever. And there's a million reasons for all that. There's no judgment here. But they give them donor milk because it's been shown that one of the number one preventatives of NEC is breast milk. Unfortunately, our NICU isn't on board yet with probiotics. I've had conversations with them 3 times about them, and some of the doctors and nurse practitioners are all for them, and some of them aren't, and they base everything on studies. And there are studies that show the benefits of probiotics, but they just haven't reached our NICU, like fully embracing them. There are NICUs across the country and the world that do use probiotics, but and also, no, I can't take more probiotics. They don't transfer into my breast milk. But having a healthy gut and breastfeeding do transfer some probiotics to the babies and keep their guts nice and healthy. Babies that get breast milk get NEC too. It's just a preventative though. So from the beginning, that was one of my main reasons for pumping as much as I could, and obsessively, I haven't been obsessive, but doing it was to prevent NEC, which I think they could still get at this point, but they have a much lower risk because they are 35 weeks. Can you guys believe that? They're 7 weeks old. They've been born for 7 weeks, the longest 7 weeks of my life. And then I was in the hospital for a week. So we've been doing this for 2 solid months, nonstop, without a break, without breathing. It's just crazy to me. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I do want to recognize, honestly, the help of friends and family, mostly family, but then some, honestly, just super faithful friends who have helped us out through watching our kids or helping with our animals when we needed it. Honestly, like doing anything that we asked them to. And it means a lot. You kind of find out who your close friends really are. And there's been a group of people who have just supported us so closely and honestly, like, offered and been available. Many people we haven't even taken up on it, but have just said, hey, like, we'll do anything. Like, I have friends who said, like, anytime you want to meet with me and talk, Or anytime you want me to come over, just tell me.
Yeah, and I mean, some of our closest friends live an hour and a half away, so we don't necessarily take them up on their offers, but they have been extremely faithful to check in and continue to offer help, and that's been really nice. But the people that are physically closest to us, have just been really faithful, and our family, oh my goodness, they're exhausted too, and they've just not stopped helping, which is incredible.
Tiny mini shout out to my fermenting course. My sister Anna is actually like basically doing everything for the fermenting course. She helped me build it last year, so we're actually selling it starting later this week and ending at the beginning of next week. So keep your ears open for that. I think it opens mid this week, and but she's like running that completely. So thanks to Anna for that. We have had some incredibly sweet moments and beautiful moments in the past week.
Yeah, oh yeah.
One of those moments was the first time and the first times that Royal really latched on and nursed. He didn't get the whole volume he needed.
I mean, I don't even think he got any milk, but, or maybe
He was
did.
swallowing. You were hearing him swallowing. She was hearing him
Are
swallowing.
you talking about yesterday?
Yeah, and the other day.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about Royal much, y'all. He's, like I said, he is off oxygen support. So he has no nose cannula, nothing. And he's just like a little fatty. We call him Fatty. The nurses call him Fatty. They even said, like, does that offend you? I'm like, no, not at all. That's what we call him at home, is Fatty. He's awake a lot, which actually is really hard for me because I'm not there. But he's doing so good. So okay, something people don't understand, I didn't understand this either, about babies born this early, is that they don't have a sucking reflex at first. And so when they start to show that sucking reflex, the nurses call that cueing. And when they do start to cue, the nurses will start giving them little drops of breast milk and give them a little passy and start encouraging them to suck, so that they can build up the muscles in their mouth. And I can do something with them called, I don't even, this sounds so weird to say on the internet, but breast play is what they call it. And basically it's encouraging them to enjoy the breast and giving them milk, and like with a dropper, you drop it in their mouth and you try to just put them on your breast gently. You don't force anything. It's all very gentle. And well, he all of a sudden just exploded in his sucking reflex. He is like a piranha. It is the cutest thing. And it's actually kind of comforting because it means that when I'm not there, he'll take a passy. So if I'm not there to comfort him, the nurses have a way to comfort him without having to pick him up. I mean, I would rather they pick him up, but they are watching other babies too. So he is like a piranha. It is the cutest thing I've ever seen, and it is really sweet and comforting.
He's kind of noisy too. He's like,
yeah, I love it.
He like grunts and snorts.
It's so sweet. And so because of that, because his sucking reflex came in just super strong and powerful, and he has been able to start bottle feeding. He still has his tube in his nose, but he's been able to start bottle feeding. Something that's really difficult for preemie babies is learning to eat. And the reason it's difficult is because they weren't created to be out of the womb this early, and so their brains aren't quite ready to do all these things at one time. So like when they were first born, like breathing and beating their hearts at the same time without them just totally desatting or having Brady's was really difficult. And so that's why you can't really like touch them or let light in, because it can make them just drop all of their heart rate and breathing and stuff. It's overstimulation basically. So that's weeks ago. Now though, what's difficult is breathing, sucking, swallowing. And so they have to learn how to do that without dropping their heart rates, without aspirating, without dropping their breathing. Am I making sense? It's really challenging for
Yeah.
them. It's really challenging. But so that's what he's starting to work on, is taking bottles
So,
and
oh,
maybe
sorry.
nursing. I mean, it's really complicated. I get to try to nurse, but to be honest, the way out of the NICU is to get your babies to take bottles. And I wish our NICU is somewhat supportive of breastfeeding. I mean, they encourage me to do it, but basically, he needs to take bottles. They both need to take bottles for us to get out. And obviously, I'm not trying to push my babies out of the NICU. I want them there as long as they need to be there, but I don't want them there any longer. And so when I try to nurse him, he's then too tired to take a bottle. And so that means that it looks like he's not able to take a bottle, but instead it's because I tried to nurse. And it's discouraging because it's important to me to nurse my babies, but it's also important to me to get out of the hospital.
So I do want
Am I
to.
making sense?
Yep, I do want to say thank you to Nikki for the super chat, and also thank you to everyone's awesome comments and just telling us where you are and the encouragement um, for us in this hard time. So thank you for all the awesome comments and chats. I do want to say that our fear over truly, I mean, fear is not gone. If you have babies in the NICU, you're worried about them. But our fear over truly has been modulated downward in the past days by a couple things, and one of them is her. She just looks better. She looks better. Her face looks better.
I
She's
want to show a picture.
consistently gained some weight, not a ton of weight, but consistently gained weight for several days in a row. And then there has been this looming challenge and fear, and that is that he's doing so well that he'll leave the NICU before her. And that's still a challenge. And it is, this whole experience has been characterized by just us feeling split. Like anytime we're doing anything, whether we're here with our kids here, whether we're sleeping, whether we're in the hospital with our babies, we always feel like we should be somewhere else or we've left part of ourselves behind because our family's split. Our kids have never met the infants. It's just everything feels completely, we're just like torn apart. And so the challenge of if he comes home before her is that then we're going to have one infant at home who needs complete like 24/7 care, supervision, feeding,
More than even a regular newborn because they're a
nurturing,
preemie.
and then we'll still have one in the NICU.
And the problem is that once a baby leaves the NICU, it literally cannot re-enter. I'm not talking about be readmitted. I'm talking about that baby literally cannot come through the doors of the NICU. So we'll have a baby at home, 5 kids at home, a baby in the NICU.
So what it's going to look like is me at home with him and you going to the hospital, or you at home here, me going to the hospital. Either way, it's like actually a bigger challenge than what we've been doing. So
Well, the reason it's so intense is because, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one reason is because, like, when I'm at the hospital, at least I'm there with both babies, right?
mhm.
So, yes, I'm split from my big kids, oftentimes from you, but I'm with both babies. I'm able to comfort and care for and love and nurture both of my babies. Um, so if one goes home, now it's like I have them split apart and I can't comfort them. I mean, it's how can I be split in more directions? How can we be split in more directions? Obviously, if we have to do it, we have to do it. But I'm just blindsided by this rule. And thankfully, a charge nurse, I already knew about this rule, but a charge nurse did stop me yesterday because everyone's like amazed at how well Royal's doing. He's not coming home anytime soon, but they're amazed at how well he's doing, and she's like, "Has anyone told you about the rule with twins and how if one goes home early, it can't come back and all this?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I just wanted to talk to you about it because I know that you really care, and I know that it would hit you really hard, and I just wanted to talk through it with you." And da da da. It was really kind of her, actually. She was worried about me being blindsided by it. Um, anyway, we're going to pause and take a break to admire some babies. Hold on. I got some pictures for y'all. I don't know how to just put pictures up on the phone or whatever, but you want to see the cutest babies in the world? Matching? Have you ever seen anything as cute as those little twins matching? Those hats, my mom made those little hats for them. You know, the grandmas, grandparents can't go see the babies either. So that's one way my mom can love on them from afar. Okay, you're about to see literally the cutest picture you've ever seen in your life. No need to comment if it's not. Oh my gosh. Okay, one more, because this is all heavy stuff. Let's take a heavy stuff break and just do a wow, babies are amazing break. Hold on.
They are amazing, guys. When I get up there, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry we missed your super chat before it dropped off. I'm gonna recognize a few people.
Oh.
Diane Sullivan, thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate that so much. And Mary, thank you so much for the super chat. And Mary Lynn, thank you so much for the super chat.
Okay. Now in this picture, Truly looks massive. She looks way bigger than Royal. She's not. I think it's just the angle of the camera. Anyway, I just want you to know that the look of the size of her is
way smaller.
Her head is way smaller than this picture makes it look.
Too cute.
Oh my goodness. So that's actually something we hadn't shared yet. Can I share this?
So
amazing news. Hold on, let me show you this picture. I mean, the fact that we can hold them at the same time, the fact that we can, that's huge, because we were able to do it once, and then our Royal got put in isolation for MRSA. That was,
so we couldn't hold them together.
So we couldn't hold them together, and he was in isolation. I could still visit him, but it was so intense. And now, like, every day I try to hold them each individually and then hold them together. But because it's the best thing in the world to sit there holding both of my babies is literally the most amazing thing in the whole world. I mean, I love having two babies.
It's amazing. I do too. I'm
Even
actually blown away by it.
I know, even though the way they've come into this world has been extremely difficult. I've never experienced so much fear in my life. Whew, gosh, I just love having them. It's so wonderful. It's so much fun. I just can't wait for them to come home. And
I honestly love it too. I just sit there and hold them both and think, oh my gosh, these are both mine. Now, I love babies. I don't know if you know that about me. I love babies. And so having two, it's kind of like, it's like feels almost wrong because it's so much fun. It's just like so sweet. It's like one baby is overwhelming just beauty and sweetness, and two, it's like, oh my gosh.
And then they're together. It's just my favorite thing is them together.
So with the fear of him coming home before her, that's still a risk. But one of the things we were basing that on was all the ways that she looked like she was behind him. And then the other day, she just out of the blue really surprised us because, okay, so cueing is where they're giving signs that they're interested in getting things in their mouth and eating, and they're showing signs of interest in sucking and possibly hunger. And so,
hold on, I want to say one thing before you tell that story. Or no, go ahead. Sorry.
And so, Royal's been doing amazing. Truly just hasn't seemed interested at all. So it was kind of through a bunch of conversations between Brianna, nurse, and a mid-level provider, and and they decided like, hey, we really should try her on a bottle because she is showing little signs of cueing that she's interested in
Oh,
eating.
I want to tell that story.
Go
So
ahead.
we have this nurse, this primary nurse, y'all. I'm gonna cry every time I talk about her.
It's fine. You can cry.
Whew, she just knows what she's doing. She's been a nurse, a NICU nurse for 30 years. And so, anyways, she actually is the one that started encouraging Truly to what's called nipple to cue. And she's the one that realized Truly's just real delicate with her cueing. You just wouldn't even notice it if you weren't paying attention. And she's the one that started giving her a little drop of milk and encouraging the passy and then teaching me how to do that. And she's the one that realized it takes her 5 or so minutes to get into it. Like if you give up, you just think she's not interested. But if you keep going, she actually really is and enjoys the passy and enjoys sucking. So sorry. Go ahead.
So the other night, you were talking to the nurse and he said, why don't you, you were talking to the nurse and said, why don't you try her on a bottle tonight? So they had tried once before and she'd taken just a little bit, but then that night, this was maybe 3 nights ago, she drank the whole bottle.
It's a really big deal. You don't understand. She literally went from like showing no interest, at least everyone thought she showed no interest in sucking, to downing an entire bottle. It's not just about sucking, it's the fact that she coordinated her breathing, her swallowing, her sucking, and she didn't what's called Brady, which is drop her heart rate. She didn't stop breathing. It's everyone is like, what just happened?
So we were blown away by that and honestly really encouraged, and everything just has to play out one day at a time.
Yeah, because I get the phone call this morning. Royal didn't take any bottles last night. You know, it's just like, oh, okay.
Thank you, J Farm, for the super chat. Thank you so much. Everything has to play out one day at a time.
It really does.
But that was encouraging because in the realm of eating, it only puts her possibly just a couple days behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Not like an unknown. When is she going to actually show interest or even like be interested at all? So that was a huge encouragement, and we're just really, really praying that that will keep up. And she's not going to probably catch up with weight, but she can keep growing and she can catch up with her skills.
Yeah.
Or at least catch up close enough. People have been asking a lot about transition rooms or nurturing rooms, and yes, so they have them, but it's basically you're not going to get to spend weeks in there. It's more like a matter of days before you discharge, where you can stay with the babies, and there's a little bit of wiggle room there. The wiggle room is probably like 5 days max, where anyway, where one could discharge, quote unquote, before the other, and the other one could stay in the transition room for a couple days. But there's not a lot of wiggle room there.
Well, they said once a baby's discharged, you have 2 days because they want their doctor to see them from the beginning of them getting out of the NICU so that they have comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So on day 2, they want you taking that baby to your pediatrician, which makes sense. So
we're basically just
well, I did say, could my pediatrician come here so my baby doesn't ever leave? And they were like, I don't think so. So I'm actually going to look into that because I think my pediatrician would do that. And if my baby's so it's complicated. Basically, if you have a baby that's discharged but they never leave the hospital, they can stay. But you literally can never leave the hospital because they're not a patient.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's all complicated. It's probably not going to work for that to happen, but I'm going to ask if the doctor can come there.
So
I am so hungry.
Yeah, we need to stop. We're coming up on an hour, 51 minutes. So and you're about to go to the hospital. You just finished pumping?
Yeah, I'm actually quite behind on leaving. I still have to shower and everything. Let's take a few questions, but before we do that, I wanted to share something with you guys. So this was a big day, and it was actually a day that scared me pretty bad, and I can explain why. But I was ready for it when it happened, but I went up one morning. This was just a couple days ago that this happened, because Royal's been ready for this for a while, but Truly has not. And so I went up to the NICU a couple days ago and came around the corner, and this is what I saw. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, I don't know if I can show this. I'll show it in a second. I have to edit the picture for a second.
No, they won't be able to see anything.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Or I can just do that.
Just scroll it up.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Just a second. Okay. Technologically.
We're not tech people, guys.
We aren't tech people.
People think we are, but we're
okay,
not.
but this is what I saw. Can you guys see that? I don't know if you can see that.
Babies side by side.
Babies in cribs side by side, not incubators. It's a big deal. This is a huge deal. And the reason it's a big deal is to put your hands through holes in a plastic box to interact with your baby. And your baby, because first of all, we have to wear masks all the time. And we have to look at our babies through a plastic box. It's mentally very intense. You know, it's the best thing for them, but it's also just like, this is not how babies and moms and dads are supposed to be interacting. And to get them out was just this whole huge thing. So anyway, I can literally stand there and touch both my babies at the same time. Before, they were like way across from each other, like definitely not within touching, and like I couldn't anyway. I can stand there and look at both of them at the same time. That maybe seems small, but y'all, it's been 2 months and I can finally look at my babies at the same time anytime I want to. I can touch them at the same time anytime I want to. I can just pick them up, because now they're at a stage, unless Truly's just eaten, we don't do this, or if she's eating, but I can literally just pick them up. Like, she was having a hard day the other day and fussing and crying, like her tummy hurt. And I went and I just picked my baby up and comforted
really
her.
Sweet.
Do you know how many times she's been in the incubator crying and I couldn't do anything? I mean, I would put my hands on her and sing to her through a plastic box. So the fact that she was like crying the other day, and I just went over there and picked her up, and she settled down and she stopped crying. I'm like, yes, baby, this is what it means to have a mommy. That's what it means to have a mommy. And it's really nice not to be in incubators.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice.
We honestly, apart from this hard experience and still within it, are so thankful for these 2 little people
They're
coming to
just
join
amazing.
the family. And we're so excited about the coming years and them just joining in and learning the ropes and learning. I mean, our other kids are going to just already adore them, even though they've never met them, and just teaching them, you know, everything there is to learn, teaching them all the skills they know, taking them into the woods and to the creeks and going swimming with them, teaching them to swim, all this stuff that we're just so excited about and excited to have. 7.
We have 7.
I know.
Our big kids are they're doing amazing. There's something I'm really trying to work on, is just that there won't be resentment towards the babies or towards me. And that has been one of my main goals, is that they can be sad. This can be hard. That's just bound to be the way it is. Sadness, hard, missing. You know, they're feeling a lot of the same things we are, in a different way, but they're feeling them. But I've just tried really hard and worked really hard on nipping resentment in the butt or blaming the babies. That's mostly not been an issue, but it's bound to come up. I mean, and it has. And so, you know, we've worked through it, talked through it. I just think a ton of healing is going to come for our kids when they actually have a connection with these babies. It's difficult even as an adult, to have a connection with someone through a screen. And these are their siblings, and they've literally never met them.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also lost their mom, not all the way, obviously, but they've been through a lot. Our big kids have. And I don't take that lightly. And it's actually something that's, weighs on me almost as much as the babies, is the condition of my older kids' hearts. I think Wilder's really struggling, and that kills me. He's also grown up a ton in the last 2 months, like crazy amount. He's like wearing size 5 clothes. I mean, when did that happen? He's 3. So he's just gotten really tall and grown out of everything. He's wearing Brighton's clothes. He's struggling, and he's acting out. That's how he's showing it. He's also 3. But because he doesn't have like consistent parental discipline and nurturing and teaching and guiding, he's being extra super duper 3, and he's sad. He misses us. And I'm worried about that. But I think as long as we keep connection with our kids, we nip any resentment in the butt, and we just really love them when we're around, I think it's going to be okay.
Well, we're also, like, as much as possible, just trying to bring the kids into the experience of caring for the babies, even from a distance, and trying to help them build connection with them.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a video of that.
There's that is through like taking little special videos just for the kids with the babies, and showing them stuff. Like, honestly, they see video every single day of the babies. We send them little clips and pieces. And then also they have their beautiful art wall where they've just drawn dozens of drawings and put them up all over the wall at the hospital.
We need to take a video and share that with you guys sometime. It's been really special, actually, this art wall. The nurses and doctors come from all over, actually, to look at it. And we have pictures of our older kids on it, too, so that, they have a understanding of our family. But the kids have covered the wall in art, and everyone thinks it's so cool. Another thing we've done is, and I actually want to do this more, is FaceTime while I'm holding the babies, or while something's going on with the babies. And the kids have really liked that. The first time I held both babies, we FaceTimed them. And then when I held both babies after the MRSA and isolation, when I held both babies again, we FaceTimed them. And yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I want to go ahead and get off.
I just want to see if there's any questions real quick. I'm okay.
There are questions, but I would rather get off and make out for 15 minutes rather than answer questions for 15 minutes.
Dad,
hey,
dogs in the house.
That's okay. The white dogs?
No, set.
That's okay. We'll deal with it in a minute. Thanks for telling us.
We'll kick them out.
Do you want to sit with me for a minute?
Well, he keeps not going outside.
It's okay.
So it's settled.
I keep going.
We're getting off.
I would like to answer 1 or 2 questions. Hey, do you want to sit with me, or you want to go back downstairs?
I want to sit with you.
Well, come here. Come say hi to everybody. No, people haven't seen
Westbrook
Wilder
Downs, thank you so much for the super chat.
Come here. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Oh, my goodness. Are you showing people how strong you are?
Everyone's voting for us to make out, not answer questions.
Oh, my goodness. You guys.
Muscle man.
Oh, you make me happy. Something I want to say is,
You're wonderful.
I've been offered places to stay closer to the hospital and things like that. And I've taken people up on it a couple of times. My brother even had me a hotel room right by the hospital for a few days. But it really wasn't helpful to me. I was thankful, but what I have found is that coming home,
They are you.
even though it's a really long drive and I feel so far away from the babies, I just love coming home to my kids. It's the best feeling in the whole world.
Look, someone sent you dinosaurs in the
Look at your dinosaurs. You see the dinosaurs? Oh, they're gone now. Here, you can see them right here. Look,
I'm going down.
right there.
Hey, Daddy, tomorrow can you buy me those?
Dinosaurs?
Can you
buy
me
you dinosaurs tomorrow?
How do we get
I'm
things?
sure it'll happen sometime.
We pay money.
How we get money?
We work for money.
We work for money. That's right. You're
You can
smart.
earn money and make your dinosaurs, buddy.
Yep.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll try to do another live soon where we can answer all your questions.
So many questions. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, though, just coming home to the kids is honestly the most healing, therapeutic thing for me, is what I found. So I don't really like staying away at night from everybody. It's lovely to come home to this. I mean, who wouldn't want to come home to this every night?
All right, thanks for all the dinosaurs and lizards, guys. We're going to jump off. I hope everyone has a great week. It's Monday. And
Oh, yeah. It's Monday. I got to go to the hospital.
we will see you soon in another video. And hopefully in a live. We'd like to do more live. So bye-bye. Goodbye. Thank you so much,
Can you say
everyone,
bye?
for your kindness and for your generosity. And for the awesome emojis.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.